Welcome to episode 25 of a series where we examine the cut content, design, and development of Fallout New Vegas. I'm very happy to bring you part 2 of my interview with area designer Robert Lee. The dog/god boss fight stands out to me as one of the most memorable moments of Dead Money, and I asked Robert about his design process. Chris Avalone and I wanted to create a sense of urgency and impending doom. The concept at its core was Dog is going to blow up the casino if you don't stop him immediately. I looked at the gameplay tools we had and decided to go with gas rather than a simple bomb, because it would force the player to either deal with the gas or use a limited set of weapons that don't ignite it. We started out with a large kitchen/restaurant space because we were concerned about AI pathing and detection issues. But after a white box review of the space, we decided it would be more engaging and dial up the urgency to shrink it down to its current size. It took a lot of testing and tuning of multiple scripts to pull off. Dog had to play a unique animation when lighting the fire, and the timing of the dialogue and scripting had to be carefully synced to cause the explosion and look right. All of the gas valves were set up to affect the quest script, which was constantly checking if the valves were on or off. The dialogue then also checked for multiple states. It was an incredibly complex setup that took a lot of work to get just right, but I think it worked out. I think players who save scum to see if there were alternate choices probably appreciated this variety. Oxhorn did a pretty good breakdown of Dead Money and this encounter on his channel. It's this attention to detail and design mindfulness of player agency that set Obsidian apart from the pack. I'm hopeful that fans of FNV will be equally impressed with the Outer Worlds.
Hello, it's nice to meet you. Who can I hide you from today?
The X-13 stealth suit is easily my favorite piece of armor in the game, and I asked Robert about his inspiration for it. I've always been a fan of talking weapons and items since playing pen and paper Dungeons & Dragons with friends. It's not something you see in most games, and offers writers an incredible amount of flexibility to flesh out a personality. It's also really cool how talking items can often become much more endearing and memorable than most humanoid characters. I can't take credit for the talking part though. I'm not sure who suggested it once they saw I had the stealth suit's automated features set up and working, but I'm glad they did. Maybe it was something I joked about in a review meeting, thinking we wouldn't have the time or budget. But it may have been Eric Beaumont who suggested it. I was ecstatic when he showed me what he had added to my script. It really kicked the stealth suit through the roof. I just wish we had had more time to really polish with more dialogue lines and options to custom tailor its behavior to the user. That came down to production timelines, and it wasn't a high priority. Oftentimes, you get to a point in production where you've got all of the dialogue recorded for something, and stuff that wouldn't take a ton of time to tweak just can't happen because VO is in lockdown. It's not like we can just call up the voice actors to walk into the studio and add some lines. It would be ideal for developers, but the Screen Actors Guild and other processes get in the way of bursts of late-game creativity. If you're a modder doing your own voiceover and audio, count yourself blessed. Few moments in FNV are as tense as your first trip to Nellis. However, it wasn't until recently that I realized just how complex this scene actually is. The artillery script tracks if the player is in cover, and if so, it fires less accurately. The longer the artillery fires, the more accurate it becomes, etc. So I asked Rob about it. This was a coordinated effort between Akil Hooper and I. We brainstormed how we wanted this intro to the Boomers to play out, and I prototyped the basic functionality with an invisible target in the sky lobbing projectiles at the player. Akil tuned it with the timing so it became more accurate the longer the player stayed out of cover. I did final polish. The hardest part of that was getting the initial targeting to work. I had to use a basic trig function so the player's angle to the lobber was inverted so the lobber could shoot at the player. There was oddly no such functionality in the engine as it was, so I'm glad I was able to get it to work. It was one of those seemingly minor victories that later pays big for other designers down the road. Finally, I ask what it's like to have worked on Fallout New Vegas. It's a point of pride, and the team became pretty tight-knit by the end of development. I keep in touch with many of them and would gladly work with them again if our paths cross. I did a Run with Rob stream, playing back through FNV for a little while on my YouTube channel, but got insanely busy at work and couldn't keep it going. I might revisit that one day without the treadmill. There's a link to Robert's channel below, and I highly recommend checking it out. That's all for part 2 of Memories of the Mojave with Robert Lee. As always, thanks for watching.